Hello, world. It's me, Dennis, and I'm having another reasonably spontaneous conversation with my friend, artist Ross Boone. Hello, Ross.
Hi, Dennis. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
When I first got a chance to know about you, it was through your interpretation of the Last Supper. And of course, the most famous depiction of this is The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
And this is what so many, it certainly wasn't the first, but it was one that has become the most famous. And so over the years, artists have interpreted and reinterpreted their own version of the Last Supper. So as you were thinking about this before you began, what were your initial thoughts before we get to your interpretation of when you decided to do this?
Yeah. I realized that when we interpret something that's been done multiple times, we get to level set. We get to say, like, okay, here's the understanding of the story. We know what's come before. Now let's contextualize it with today's issues, today's contemporary relevant questions on people's minds. So as I went into modeling each of the figures in the Last Supper, I was like, okay, what would be someone that could represent some of the issues back in the day with our current issues, and so that we could speak to kind of the role that Jesus was playing by bringing all these people together in this very unique situation, but put it in a context that we understand right now.
Perfect. So this was what you ended up with.
There it is.
This is stunning. And you said it in a McDonald's, right?
That's right. That's right.
And that was your overall setting. So now let's go into each individual one of the characters that you chose to do, starting with Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. So I could also do a quick comment on why I chose McDonald's.
Absolutely. Let's
Okay.
do this.
And then I'll feed it into the homeless figure in the middle as Jesus.
Perfect. Well, all right. So let's look at the McDonald's and look at exactly how you set this up.
Sure. Um, so the Last Supper originally took place, in Hebrew communities during Roman occupation, where they were afraid that, a Roman soldier could come in and storm their house. The Romans were the ones who were in charge. So, like, this could have been a public space open to peril. Like, these people didn't necessarily feel like they were totally safe. So, just like in a McDonald's, it's a public space. It's not going to be your fancy situation. Don't have a ton of great food available. It's not like they're in some palace somewhere. This is
No.
supposed to contextualize it with, it's kind of a place that's dangerous. It's kind of a place that is not fancy at all, and a place where all these people could feel comfortable finding community with each other, though.
And I have been into some inner city McDonald's, and it looks a lot more like this than the fancy ones that are in the burb. These are the people that are there, and it would be just as easy to see some ICE people
Mhm.
coming in and trying to check to see whether or not people were actually documented.
That's right. You're totally right. I would, as you were describing it, it just hit me like, wow, I could totally picture that. So I'd invite any of the other listeners just to picture an inner city McDonald's, walking in there, the smells, the sounds, the people you see sitting at those tables. Now imagine all those different people are at this big table together, gathered around, and there's chatter. There's a little bit of, food moving back and forth. You got all these colorful characters. Just let that sit in your mind as the setting for what we're about to talk about.
And so we'll start with the first figure,
Yeah.
which is your figure of Jesus. Now, talk about how you constructed him and what you were thinking about when you did this.
Yeah. You know what? Jesus showed up in a way that people didn't expect. He wasn't of royal heritage, according to what they were able to see in the lineage until they looked later. He wasn't rich. He didn't have a lot of anything. He had some wisdom and some things that were, perking up some eyebrows, like, who's this guy? But the message came from someone that nobody expected it to. Just like this. Picture those types of people that you walk by on the road, assuming they have nothing to offer. This might be an example of someone like that. A homeless Black man who's got stains on his pants, his shoes are untied. But what this guy is showing us, I purposely held out his hands, offering the hamburger to the street dog beside him, and he's offering a drink to the woman beside him as well, showing that from what little he has, even from that, he is giving away. And this represents his life as a whole. He gave up his life to the point of death so that others could benefit from the miracle that would happen from that. And you also can see that he has a sign there that says, "My friend, I'm hungry." Not afraid to say, let's connect on our humanity. I have needs, you have needs. We are people.
I'm so glad we're doing this. All right, so the second figure that we'll talk about is the homeless woman who is next to Jesus, who he's offering the drink to. Talk about her.
Okay. When I was doing research to figure out what characters I would put in here, there was a woman that looked a lot like this. It was the woman I modeled this drawing after. It was a video of just some viral video of a guy who pretended he was a blind man, and he was going around to strangers asking them if they could tell him if his lottery ticket won. He knew that it was a $500 winning lottery ticket. He went up to a couple of smooth talking rich fellas that were like, "Oh, let me take a look. Oh no, it's not a winner. I'll throw it away for you," and they take it, assuming they'll redeem it themselves. This woman, the woman that looks like this, in just lounging around in a parking lot, probably homeless, was like, "Oh my gosh, my friend, you have won. Congratulations. Go and claim your prize," or something equivalent to that. And I was like, you know what? We volley and jockey for position in this world, but this woman who had next to nothing, her generous heart, I think, reflected the heart we just described in Jesus, who was ready to give what little he had to benefit those around him.
Wow. Your third depiction is the street dog.
Yeah.
And so here is the street dog, and Jesus is offering him a burger to be able to eat. So talk about him.
Okay.
Talk about
Dennis, what do you notice?
her rather.
That's
Because
right.
as you can see, she has puppies because she's obviously lactating. Go ahead.
That's right. I was going to ask if anyone noticed that part. That's crucial.
And because I didn't, I never saw it until you pointed it out, and how vital.
This is us artists spend so much time on every detail. As you're looking at art pieces, just in general, recognize that often the artist is placing these details for thought-provoking reasons. So this is mine. This is one example of mine. So it's easy to disregard this street dog. Annoying, just trying to get food. Maybe they're dangerous. Is it gonna bite me?
Smelly, dirty.
That's right, germs or whatever. But you don't know the story behind this dog. This dog is going back to feed its helpless little puppies. Now, what people might be like that? Do you see someone that normally you would disregard? You don't know if they're going back and giving all of their love or what little they have to the people in their family, their home. Maybe they have kids. Maybe they have foster kids, Wouldn't that be crazy if someone that you totally dismissed as just a taker, they are a giver, giver, giver.
Oh, that is wonderful. All right, now our next character that you have is the gender bending woman. So here she is. She's dressed in male clothes, and she's next to Jesus, and she's petting the dog. Talk about her.
Yeah. All right. This was kind of modeled off of some people that I had met. And if I'd gotten to spend more time with them, I would be glad to call them my friend. And This was done, this drawing was done, I don't know what it is now, 8 years ago, maybe, this painting, and, the issues were at a different stage in their development, and I just heard, even this is still very, present in the church, that because of someone's sexual orientation, they're discounted from being a Christian, and, I understand it is difficult to interpret the Bible on this topic, and there are some interpretations that are firm that, pursuing a homosexual lifestyle is not in God's plan. I'm not totally convinced. It seems like, people can't help it, and in my mind, often a, committed monogamous relationship is the best situation, especially if there's just, the temptation for everybody is to, push against our, desires for promiscuity and sexual exploration until it ends up,
Sure.
potentially damaging us. And I think, we take all of our ridicule in that area and put it on, homosexuals, gay people. So I just want to point out that, the conversations that I've had with, some gay Christians are, like, when I see their heart of service, of giving, of generosity, of studying to try to serve the Lord, I am, more impressed than a lot of heterosexual Christians, that
Yeah.
say they're doing all the right stuff, but don't have a similar heart. So I just want to honor that role, and that person, who struggles or who has accepted, their gay lifestyle,
Right.
and, say, like, God loves you. You're probably doing wonderful work, and I don't want you to feel shame. God loves you.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
And,
and there's whole
and I
swaths.
mean,
Yeah.
that couldn't be more relevant today with all the anti-trans in news in the communities and all the work that is being done in order to be able to put people into boxes that
Mhm.
they may not be able to know that they fit in, but that's not the box that what you and I, our interpretation of our higher power
Yeah.
has is boxless.
Gosh,
All right,
boxes.
wonderful.
You're right.
Our next woman to the right. This is the prostitute.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
talk about her and how how you interpreted her and brought
Mhm.
her, because she has something in front of her, and let's go ahead, talk.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we know that Jesus interacted with prostitutes with
Yep.
much grace and mercy in the Bible. Maybe we forget that when we see a prostitute
Yep.
on the street. And the more we find out about, the culture and lives of women in what is the industry called? Sex industry.
Yes, in the sex
Um,
worker industry.
that's right. We understand a lot of them are not there really by their own choice, or they're just stuck in the cycle of addiction. I don't think it's probably in their best health physically and emotionally to be doing that. But I really don't have a place to say it. I don't really have a place to say that. We judge, by what
Yes,
their stuff
exactly. And I seem to remember something about judging,
judging.
something about judging.
Yeah. Beware, because you too will be judged.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've experienced in my life about judgment, is that there is the stronger judgment that I have, on any other person or thing, I'm holding something equally or heavier against myself. It might not be the exact thing, but it is certainly something that it will align along that way. And
Yeah,
so I really need to look that take the speck out of the mote out of my own eye, rather than trying to take it out of yours, the speck out of
totally,
yours.
man. I recognize the same thing. If there is an emotional,
Well,
offensiveness, then pay attention because it's probably going on in your own heart.
ding, 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 ding. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, so let's go to the far left in your painting, to the three men
yeah.
that are sitting down. And before we take them individually, we'll go ahead and talk about them and what they're doing.
Okay. Yeah, on the far left, we see a white McDonald's worker, a white fellow with a skateboard, a black guy who is receiving an ice cream cone with joyous acceptance.
Yep.
Just imagine if you walked into anywhere and you see those three diverse characters having a blast together,
Right.
chatting, talking. You'd think like, wait a minute, these don't belong together. How on earth
Yep.
did they become friends? But like one of the very cool things about Christianity, the way I see it, is that we are all brothers and sisters. Imagine
Isn't
that's
that
your
the
brother.
truth?
And if we unite over the values of Christianity, here's what's happening here. That McDonald's worker was not part of this group until he overheard. Here's the conversation that was happening between them in my head as I was painting it.
Right. Exactly.
The McDonald's worker overheard that conversation between the skater dude and the black fella, that the black fella had never had a soft serve ice cream cone. And the McDonald's employee, despite what his employer would have said, was so excited to give this experience to this fella that he went and got a free soft serve ice cream cone and brought it to him. And the guy is like, "What? This is amazing. Thank you. This is going to be a great experience." And the skater fella right next to him is enjoying it all along. Yeah. Oh, let's stick on that point, on that picture right there.
Right.
I've tried to put a open Bible at every one of the characters' setting,
Mhm.
so that it shows these people, like a characteristic of if someone calls themselves a Christian, is to be taking God's instructions from what they're able to glean from the Bible. That is, his Bible app is open. Now the only one in this whole cast of characters that has a closed Bible. Do you know who it is?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the pastor. We're going to get to him in a little. We'll get to him in a little bit.
So let's
Now,
be ready for that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now the next one, we have the lonely black girl who is it is the far as we're looking at it, at the far right, and there she is. And tell me about her and
Oh
what
man.
you brought her.
Yeah. I was digging deep here, and I know these are experiences that I don't personally have a personal story with. So I'm doing my best to represent a group of people that I want to know they're welcome at the table. This is a foster child that has parents that not taking care of her, not taking good care of her. You can see she has a black eye, broken glasses, like she's been perhaps abused, beaten, not washed clothing. She is just at the far edge, just hoping to be welcomed at any table. And I just want to say, like, yes, you are the type of person wanted perhaps the most at Jesus' table. Those who are lonely, those who feel walked on by everyone else and disregarded, come to the table, because there is where you will receive
And that,
the love.
which is one of my what I feel is one of the most important elements of the pro-birth movement, is that within the Christian culture, is that life does not end at birth.
Yes.
Once we're there, once we have brought a child onto the planet, let's make sure that it gets all the opportunities, the nutrition,
Yeah.
the early childhood education, the opportunity to be able to have support and access to the kinds of opportunities that will allow them to succeed. And it is on us.
That's right.
We have brought them here. We have brought them here, and now let's go ahead and make it good.
And I before we move on to the next, I have a personal story, a development since the last time I talked to you, Dennis.
Please.
Until this stage in my life, I've been very reticent to have children. My wife is more open to it. She wants children, and
Mhm.
this has been an open conversation for ever since we started dating. Over in December, a friend invited me to. The reason that I am so scared to have kids is because I have trimmed my life, trimmed off distractions in my life so I could be super efficient and productive to make, create, write, all the things that I feel like God has inspired me to give to this world. Like, I
Right.
feel like it's my mission. I feel like I get messages of inspiration that I want to share with others, and this is my way to do it. I make things that people
Yep.
can read, or art they can look at, apps they can interact with. So a child doesn't factor into that very well. It just sounds like distraction all the
Exactly.
way through. But this over Christmas, so in December, a neighborhood friend invited me to go to a screening of a movie. It's called Something of Hope. I always forget the first part of it. Something of Hope. The story is, it is this pastor and his wife who decide to foster kids despite, they have barely enough money. They already have kids. Their marriage is already strained. Bringing another kid onto the scene, that will just ruin anything. It makes no logical sense.
Yes.
But they felt like God was asking them to do it. And then, despite it being difficult and hard, they said, we feel like we should encourage the rest of our church to do it too. And the pastor preached it from the stage and said, would you all want to join with us and foster as well? In the end, I think they had, 25 families in the church start to foster. And the movement spread to other churches, if I understand right. And there was a 200 square mile radius where there was no foster needs whatsoever, because they had all been absorbed up to be taken care of by that church and the other ones who took that model. So, Dennis, after that, and get emotional. After that movie, I turned to my wife and I said, that's how we were meant to live. The way I've insulated my life to do exactly what I want to do in the way I want to do it leaves no place for God to really take me to my edge, stretch me, turn me into something that I otherwise have no motivation to become. And there's people out there who need help. So the love stories that were just bursting from the seams of this movie, of children who didn't believe they were worthy being welcomed into houses that love them no matter what, just broke my heart to the point where I turned to my wife after this movie and said, we need to foster. So we've started the process. We had our first meeting, and in fact today signed the document of intent saying we want to move forward with this. It may be a 6-month process, but after that we'll be able to take on foster kids in our house.
Well, I'm going to want to know more about this, and as we go along, as you and I continue on this journey. All right, that's stunning. All right, so now just above the prostitute,
Yeah,
here we have the megachurch pastor.
that's right.
And tell me about this character.
Okay. Imagine if he sat down next to them. What might be the reason that he would get up and leave? Probably feels really uncomfortable. And maybe that's because he's worked so hard on his image and isn't comfortable around real dirt. And he's the only one with a closed Bible. And he's the only one that is dressed to impress.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's wrong, and I'm not saying megachurch pastors are this way. I have a quick anecdote about getting into heaven.
Okay.
This is my sort of complex answer to who goes to heaven and who doesn't. That's a difficult one for me to handle with Christianity.
Me too.
If they say only Christians go to heaven because they've heard the right words and said the right stages of this
Exactly.
prayer, I'm just like, I don't know if that's. So here's my thought on it and how it could still jive with the Bible.
Okay.
Let's say we all get to the pearly gates, whatever they look like, probably not actual pearly gates.
Exactly.
And Jesus is there and he's like, guys, I am the door into this kingdom. I have engineered this kingdom and architected it. And in order for it to run the best, I've set up certain rules that everyone must abide by. They will help you maximize your productivity, your how much life you feel, your generosity. It will give you safety. It will, it's all these things. He's created the perfect society. But if you go in and you disobey the rules, it's no longer going to be a perfect society. So you have to be willing to do things his way. And I think this is what differentiates. I hope maybe what differentiates someone who will say, yes, I will choose to follow that and I will walk into your kingdom. Imagine like the homeless man who maybe his whole life, maybe he's been an alcoholic, maybe he's tried to do things his way. And when he gets to heaven and Jesus says, I have a different way, you're welcome to join. He's going to be like, heck yeah, I would love to get rid of my alcoholism. I would love to get rid of all the horrible decisions I made. Please take me into your kingdom. I would love to operate under your rules. And even like, let's say, oh yeah, we didn't talk about, I think one of the people, a woman dressed in a like a hijab. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. Maybe for time's sake, we're moving past it, but it works because it works into this metaphor. Imagine she comes to the pearly gates, and Jesus is there. Is like, and he's like, would you like to come in? You have to abide by my rules. She's like, wait a minute, you're Jesus. I heard about you on earth. I didn't know the right things to say or the right, like
Right.
I had people telling me not to and everything. But now that I know you're true, as long as her heart is ready to say like, yes, Jesus, I'll take on your rules for this kingdom, I think Jesus would say like, yes, now that you know the truth, now that you know I am the architect of this place and I want you here, will you come in, please? Hopefully, especially, in that culture where it's very subservient based, they would be like, I am ready to serve. I've practiced my whole life serving. I am very ready to serve you, Jesus. And I think
Right.
Jesus would say, come on in.
In my experience, Ross, is that I see, as you and I have talked about before, is that I see God as love. And what you're asking, and where you're asking it with Jesus is saying, do you want to choose love, or do you want to choose fear? It's your choice. Which will you choose? You come my way, you will choose love. This is love, because what this kingdom is about is the kingdom of love. It's a kingdom of this opportunity to love and to create and to manifest. And fear is all about deprivation and subtraction and to fear. So are you going to for addition or subtraction? It's your choice. It's your choice. And in my metaphor and in my life is that I cannot see I can always see an opportunity for someone to choose fear, but I always see, because I see that there is, because even in a human form, I can see a human, never, a human would never stop loving the child, no matter how disobedient that child. I can't imagine the concept of love being so much greater that there would always be an opportunity to choose love.
Yeah. And I realized I love that. And I think that differentiation between fear and love is so key. I forgot to bring it back home with the analogy of showing up the pearly gates. Now imagine the megachurch pastor shows up and he's done things his own way his whole life. He's made a successful church. He's grown it to whatever, 100,000 people. And by all means, in our minds, seems like a successful, godly man. Now imagine if he gets to that conversation with Jesus and Jesus says, come on in if you'd like to do it my way. And he's like, I've had so much success doing it my way. I think I'll walk the other way to the place where everyone else goes who wants to do it their way.
Right.
And I love the idea that Jesus is like, yeah, come on in. I want you. All it takes is your choice to give your heart over to me and say, I want to do it your way.
Yeah.
And the benefit of doing that here on earth is that we start to reap the benefits of a life based around love and generosity and giving and trust. And I wouldn't have ever decided to foster if it weren't, a God like inspired thing. And so I think we're just invited to do even more beautiful things in this world sometimes when it makes no physical logical sense, but God says, I have a story to tell with you. Do you want to take this on? And we say, we are subservient. We are ready because we know you have a bigger vision and dream and story that you want to write with our life beyond our scope of expectation. Let's go.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you for another opportunity to be able to talk about this. Thank you for this wonderful painting that you did. We'll take one more look at the entire piece that you have, and to be able to see your interpretation of this beautiful work. And there they are, all at the table. And I want to thank you for this, and I want to thank you for being my friend, and for all the art that you do, and the continuation for the expression of love and the manifestations that you're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Can I do a prayer for the people who listen? Can we pull up
Love it.
the Last Supper one more time? And as people gaze upon it, let your eyes wander from each character to character. Imagine them sitting at that McDonald's around a table that you're walking into. The McDonald's that you're walking into. Imagine that table full of these characters. Now, I pray that for those who are listening, to feel the spark of your Spirit, God, to draw them into conversations with those who are unlike them, to give them compassion and a sense of curiosity, Lord, not only for what is in the heart of that human, but for what you can do in their story as they come into relationship with people like that and other people that are not like them. In Jesus' name, make this happen, Lord. Amen. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Ross.